Hi, this is Max Weinberg from the E Street Band, and you are listening to Everything Fab Four on Salon.com. And it's good that you're listening because the Beatles make the best music in history.
Welcome to Everything Fab Four, a podcast focused on fun and intelligent stories about the Beatles. I'm your host, Ken Womack, music culture columnist for Salon.com and a Beatles scholar and historian. No other band, or popular phenomenon for that matter, has enjoyed the global impact the Beatles have and continue to have more than 50 years later. They are part of our human fabric. They created music that continues to bring people together, and just about everyone has their own Beatles story to tell, some that are surprisingly deep and unexpected. This show seeks to draw those stories out in interesting and insightful ways. Remember, it's a Beatles world, and everyone has a story.
I like a lot of the more undersung songs. I love Your Mother Should Know. And I used to play that in piano bars. You know, Geoff Emerick, he always said it was about the energy. And it reminds me of how they were banned in certain countries. Because even if their lyrics weren't explicit, they had the sound of a revolution.
Today's guest is singer-songwriter, actor, and comedian Nellie McKay. Known for her genre-bending music, sharp social commentary, and activism for animal rights and social justice, Nellie was born in London and raised in the United States, where she studied jazz at the Manhattan School of Music. Her performances at various New York City music venues, including the Sidewalk Cafe and Joe's Pub, drew attention from record labels, which resulted in her debut album, Get Away From Me. Produced by Beatles engineer Geoff Emerick, the New York Times described the LP as a tour de force. Nellie's music can be heard in such shows as Mad Men, Boardwalk Empire, Weeds, Grey's Anatomy, NCIS, Nurse Jackie, and SMILF. Nellie has made numerous radio appearances on NPR's Mountain Stage, A Prairie Home Companion, eTown, and Marion McPartland's Piano Jazz. She is a recipient of PETA's Humanitarian Award and the Humane Society's Doris Day Music Award in recognition of her dedication to animal rights. She has won a Theatre World Award for her portrayal of Polly Peachum in Broadway's Threepenny Opera. Nellie co-created and starred in the award-winning off-Broadway hit Old Hats and has written 3 acclaimed musical biographies, including I Want to Live, Silent Spring, and A Girl Named Bill. Nellie will be performing at the inaugural Everything Fab Four Fest, taking place this November 6th through 8th at the Berkeley Oceanfront Hotel in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where we'll be celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Beatles' Rubber Soul album. Visit ef4fest.com for more information and to book your tickets today. Welcome, Nellie McKay.
Hello, Kenneth.
Hello, Starfish.
Oh, is that what it comes up as? I don't even remember. How are you today?
I am doing great. How are you?
Well, good. I'm great. Looking forward to speaking to you and to doing this Beatles Fest.
Oh, cool. Well, we are really thrilled to have you. And, to be brutally honest, I'm a major fan of yours.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
Oh, and I was an early adopter.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, well, that's a long time ago.
Not so much. I'm just so excited that you'll be a part of our event and of course, to be part of this podcast, which means a lot to us. Maybe we could leap right in and you could tell me about your background. Do you have a musical background? How did all of this start?
I guess, like so many little music schools around the country. Somehow I got a free introduction to this music school, and then somehow I got a scholarship there. And I just think that's how it happens for a lot of people. There's a lot of chance, but there's also a lot of it's kindness, to try to make music accessible to people who otherwise might not have a chance, and other forms of creativity, because creativity is so therapeutic, if nothing else.
Well, that's for sure. And what music school was this?
It was the Bloomingdale School of Music in New York, and it was great. It was next to a health store, which was one of the first ones that was selling veggie burgers back in the day.
And you were an early adopter, I imagine.
Yeah, I remember going there. And I mean, and now it is progress. Progress is always too slow. But I mean, now you can get them at Walmart. And I really am thrilled.
So how old were you when you began playing the piano?
Let's see. I guess I was about 7 or 8. I mean, I love it. It's that thing that people say you would if you want to. Oh, that's so untrue. There's so much, I don't know about you, but there's so much I want to do, like practice more that I don't do.
Oh, absolutely. I have lists of all of the projects I would love to undertake and the books I would love to write and that sort of thing. It could go on for days, and does. I actually do keep those lists. What did you have a musical family?
Well, my mama played some guitar, and she played a lot of music around the house, such as Bob Dylan and the Beatles and Billie Holiday, and in the old movies too. There's so much music, and as you get older, you appreciate how it was influenced by classical and jazz. Those movie scores are well, I guess Sir Paul would especially agree with that what an influence they can be.
I would imagine. And in your sound and your brand of songwriting, there's just a wide array of influences that are clearly present, whether it could be those old movies and those old scores, classical songwriting. But of course, you seem to cover the gamut too. You have no shortage of interest in styles.
No, it's kind of nuts. You just wish that you had that you could follow every whim. There's so much in life. I don't know how you could ever get bored.
I would second that. Well, certainly the Beatles are never boring, and you've recorded Beatles songs. You've cited them before. What would be your Beatles discovery moment? What was your originating moment when they came into your world?
I guess. I guess Mama took me to a record store, and I think she encouraged me. I think with the Beatles, she kind of said, you can't go wrong. And you can't say that for a lot of people, But you could pick any album, and it's just a treasure trove.
Do you have any memory of what song you heard first, or what sort of put you over the transom of loving them?
Well, I do love, Sgt. Pepper is just such it takes, I remember that from a kid, and I guess also the colorful cover, you really remember those things. But I like a lot of the more undersung songs. I love Your Mother Should Know, and I used to play that in piano bars. I love a lot of their early songs that don't get, maybe they're seen as more trifles. But, Geoff Emerick, he always said it was about the energy, and it reminds me of how they were banned in certain countries, because even if their lyrics weren't explicit, they had the sound of a revolution.
I like that, and that energy is so important. Another one of our guests from a few years back, Steve Van Zandt, said that if you can't generate the energy, you can't be in the business of performing, particularly musical performance. When did you start playing in clubs? You played in places like Joe's Pub, right?
Yeah, and I guess I played a lot of piano bars, and so that's nice, getting requests from people. And there, boy, do you get the energy from people drinking and dancing and having a good time. I felt like the Beatles in Hamburg, and I miss it, because once you go professional, you actually play less. And that's a shame. I'd like to have a pseudonym and play somewhere anonymously.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
you feel like you have fewer opportunities rather than more.
Oh God, yeah, you got to be. So, okay, I mean, there are various rules, like you can't play a place more than once a year or more than once every 2 years. And, and all of a sudden you got to sell all these tickets. Whereas if you're just playing in some joint, you're just a part of the experience. It's not, all the pressure isn't on you, and you can discover things, and you can help other people have their moment at the mic, because everybody has it, Kenneth. Everybody, they get it crushed out of them, whether it's creativity or in all different kinds of ways, or that they want to be appreciated, and everybody can be. There's room for everyone.
Yeah, I was quite literally in those clubs 2 weeks ago in Hamburg on a student trip that I helped coordinate, and it was fascinating to see all the little clubs where the Beatles would play. And I remember when I was first discovering you, with your debut LP and all of the wonderful hoopla about that. I remember listening to some of your club tracks, right, where you would play your Japanese song, which, I didn't know any of the words, but it didn't matter because it was such a great, energetic melody, or several of the songs on your first LP. And I remember there was a certain kind of energy, but also a whimsy that you had, where you were just really kind of having fun at places like Joe's Pub.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think when things are new and fresh, I think the Beatles had some trouble with that too. That you need to not both physically, but maybe more psychologically. You need to stay fresh. And one way I think they did that, I don't know whose idea it was, but was by recording their songs in other languages, which is something I would love to do more of, because it's so much fun translation, and you can change the meaning of a song in really stimulating ways. You don't necessarily know where it's going; you just have to make it rhyme.
Had you studied Japanese?
No, I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm that good at languages, but I love writing in them, because it forces you to think a different way. And it's so interesting how most languages compared to English have a lot more syllables. Mm-hmm. So to say something simple is going to fill the whole line. But the opposite is in French, where everything is like a mumble and a shrug.
So, how did you get that first record contract? How did that come about? Was that through the clubs?
I would say, yeah, but I would say it was luck. I mean, yeah, I was playing. I opened for the Trachtenberg family slideshow players. I got a write out in Time Out magazine, and the record labels approached. I mean, it was, and that was right before all the online stuff hit. And I mean, so it was kind of it was a lucky time, because now I guess they still sign people, but I don't know, especially how the business keeps working. I mean, I like that. I think music belongs to the people, but we live in a world where you have to pay for other stuff. So It's a it's a balancing act. But I'm glad that music gets out there, and I'm grateful for the good parts of the internet, like just how people can discover things they wouldn't back in the days when it was all so controlled by the big corporations. I mean, it still is, but to a slightly less degree.
That was a key moment, though, because it would have been 2004, right? And,
Yeah.
most people didn't have their first iPod yet. And so, I mean, consequently, I remember really imbibing that wonderful debut album, Get Away From Me, on CD. It was probably one of the last albums that I physically purchased and then would play in my car before the so-called iPod revolution, and then of course streaming is in the wings at that point. It was an album that I really got to know by the sides of the record. And it was one of the last ones, which of course is how I'd always learned how to enjoy records as a kid.
Yeah. But now do you mostly listen to singles, or how do you do it?
I listen to Apple Music, right? That's the streaming service to which I subscribe, and so I tend to find my way into music that way. But I know most of my students use Spotify or YouTube is their big way into finding new music, of course, which is completely different, right, than how we might have done it in the old days, as it were, when we would flip through albums inside a record store. How did Geoff Emerick get involved in that first record?
Well, I mean, when we saw him, I mean, on a list of various people, we made a list. I mean, now how can you top? My God, he was there, and then meeting him, he has his production company was called Soft Paw Productions, which was sweet, and he's just, he has an innocence, I miss him, and but just meeting with him, I guess I'm just so glad it happened, because we looked at all kinds of people, more modern people, and boy, it would have been a completely different. I'm so glad it was Geoff.
Oh, I am too, and I got to know him a little bit working on my George Martin biographies. I did a 2-volume bio of George, and
No.
oh yeah, and obviously, Geoff was very instrumental in working on that. In fact, I saw him not long before he passed. And one of the things we talked about was you in that last meeting, and how proud he was of this record, and and how angry he was that he had some choice words about the record company for not taking more advantage of what a masterwork it is and was at the time. And it was just really thrilling to hear him talk about how proud he was of you and your gifts, etc. And I wonder what made him so good in the studio. He told me, I asked him once, I said, why would anybody want to work with you now? I mean, other than they could cite, the hundreds of amazing songs and albums you've been a part of. And he said to me, because he said, at the end of the day, I know how to make a record sound like a record.
Yeah, he has those ears. He just has those ears. I miss it. He can it's in his book, obviously, all his innovations with where to place the mic. But he was with Stewart on that first album we did together, and they basically talked in Cockney rhyming slang. It was entertaining, but you were never quite sure what they were saying. But and Geoff, he has that older skill set. I mean, now everything is digitized, and it's as though he's a filmmaker who is hand splicing the reels and taping them together. It's a lost art, and and he really cares. I'm going to speak as though he's still here, because I feel in a way he is. He just he's very invested. He cares about the work. He's not I mean, the business is so full of creeps and careerists and, people who are in it for, it seems like for every reason except the music. And Geoff was all about the music.
Yeah, and he had a passion about it. I mean, he could be really spirited. He really was present, I always found, and didn't hold back, even when he felt strongly about something. You mentioned how he was like a filmmaker, and I hear that too. You mentioned Sergeant Pepper earlier. When I listen to your record, it's one of the great headphone albums because there is just so much going on in terms of effects and nuance. It feels like a film, in a lot of ways. I mean, I think of songs like David, which opens the record, right? And just all of the sounds coming at you in a headphone experience in particular. Can you say a little bit about that song? It's just one of the great recordings. I play it a lot in class, actually, to show students the kind of variety you can bring to what might have been a simple, straightforward song otherwise, but instead it comes to life.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you say that. So you teach students.
I do. I'm a professor of English and popular music here at Monmouth University, again on the Jersey Shore, and I have the privilege of teaching the Beatles every semester.
Wow.
Springsteen course. Bruce is our university's benefactor. We're about to be the home of the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music. And we are the home of it. We're about to have an actual building, which in this day and age is an amazing thing. I've used a number of your songs as entrees for students to think about the recording process. And David comes up a lot because there are just so many elements at work. There's almost a kind of dream poppiness to it, but then it is just laden with all of these, and not overladen, by the way, but laden with wonderful effects. Do you remember making it?
Yeah, I remember when we were in mastering, Mom suggested that we put the thing where you open the can and you get that fizzy sound. And so we actually added that during mastering. And Geoff was always very game to add things. When we did the 60s album, My Weekly Reader, he was so good at the phasing on da 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 da. It's all so beautiful. What's that song? The Small Faces.
Yes.
Itchy-Coo Park.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but he knew how to do that, and that's and of course, if you're recording something like If I Fell with Geoff, he recorded the original. I mean, how can you? I don't even know why he would give us, like tracks to listen to and check. I mean, if he recorded the original, I'm inclined to just take his word for it.
Well, I love your version of that, and your cover of If I Needed Someone for the 40th anniversary of Rubber Soul is magnificent.
Oh, yeah, that was. Oh yeah, well, I mean, everyone loves Beatles songs because whether it's the chords, the melody, the rhythm, the harmonies are often so indelible, the arrangements, but there's so many ways you can go with them. I mean, has anyone been as covered as the Beatles?
What is your approach to songwriting? Do you start with lyrics, or do you sit down at the piano? How does the magic begin?
Oh, I would say it's all different ways. I kind of like cleaning because then you just start thinking about things. I mean, a lot of people have spoken about this. I think it's kind of scientific that if you're doing something like you're in the shower or you're washing dishes or you're, that it's a task. It helps you think because it's something you know how to do, so your mind isn't on it. And then that's when you realize, oh, that's how it should be, whatever it is.
Yeah, your brain's sort of bifurcated. So you're doing something else, and it's almost like you're free to be more expansive.
Yeah, it must have something to do with that. I mean, do you find when you write, do you have to write in the morning? Because there's also that thing called decision fatigue.
I am better in the morning. It does help me, though, if I have something else in the background, whether it's a TV show I've seen 1,000 times or an album I listen to when I write.
Really?
Yeah, it helps to sort of have something slightly distracting. That is if I know what I'm doing, which is not always the case with book writing.
Isn't that interesting? Because I know other people work that way. Wow, that's okay. I turn everything off.
I have to ask you about a song in particular, and I've taught this in English courses at least a couple of times, and that is Toto Dies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it works poetically, but of course, then when you play it, it takes on a new life because it now has the musical components that are part of it as a composition. What was the inspiration to write that?
Oh, I guess, there's a song from the 60s that begins with the word "and." So I knew I always wanted to do that. I don't even really reckon, maybe I just wanted to move out of Staten Island.
What I love about it is, obviously it's, at least on its surface, a reference to a pretty famous movie dog, right?
Right.
You have the "Oh wee oh" chorus, which is just magic. And then it goes into this place of cultural critique, of sociocultural critique, right? About the way we live and the suburbanization of the world. And kind of losing our nuance and artistic value. And it's a song that seems like a small song, but it's really quite large. It's a large universe that exists inside of it. Were you thinking about wanting to say something about society or anything like that when you were writing it?
Yeah, well, I guess, the bigger picture, it always kind of highlights the smaller picture that, at the time, we were launching this devastating invasion of Iraq, and how much money are we spending to destroy other people? And then right in front of you or in your own life, there's so much need. So I think they always go together. Everything is political.
You bet. And one of the greatest aspects of particularly the songs on that record is your use of non sequiturs. Hey, look, we're bombing Iraq, right? That was how it felt at the time. You'd turn on the TV and wait, this thing's happening, right? I suppose that's how it feels now, too. But the non sequiturs were so powerful. Your line about, no MSG, please. Those sorts of things just really, they gave the song a sense of humor, but they also, of course, there was a certain kind of reality to what you were saying, too, about the way we live.
Because life is such a distraction. And it's as we said at the beginning, it's so hard to prioritize the things you want and need to do. You've just got all these things chipping away at you that they seem necessary or something, but I love the creation of that album. And so then it led to me listening to it, and I was on this long trek. I can't even remember what hike this was, but I'm always traveling, and it keeps you awake. The Beatles perhaps are underrated as they prevent car crashes.
Everything Fab Four is presented by Salon.com, the premier news, politics, innovation, and arts website. For more information, visit everythingfab4.com, where you can learn more about our podcast and my latest Beatles-related book, Living the Beatles Legend, The Untold Story of Mal Evans. The Everything Fab Four theme song, Seize the Day, is provided courtesy of Black Rabbit, the high-octane Beatles cover band, an innovative psychedelic rock project from Rockaway Beach, Queens in New York City. Like what you heard today on Everything Fab Four? Be sure to subscribe, give us a rating, and recommend the show to your friends. Plus, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EF4 Podcast. Distributed by Salon.com, Everything Fab Four is a Wonderwall production. Remember, it's a Beatles world, and everyone has a story.